Right, you're still watching TMI. A very good morning to you if you're just joining us. Thank you so much from whatever part of the world you're watching this morning. It's great to know you're tuned in. Our time for our very first discussion on the program today, and we're going to be looking at the impact of fake drugs on our society. Now, one thing that can't be overemphasized is the fact that, from one medicine store to another, the possibility of finding fake drugs on the shelves is there. And that's apart from the fact that, the proliferation of fake drugs in the Nigerian drug market has, cast a whole lot of credibility questions on our healthcare system within the country. And also, has a very denting, it has a very big dent actually on our image as a country. We're going to be looking at all of this, especially, how to reduce or how to tackle the proliferation of fake drugs. And joining me to do justice to this is Dr. Tom Obaseki. He's a doctor of pharmacy and expert in healthcare administration and management. Many thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's go back. 2011, the World Health Organization said about 11% of the drugs found in the Nigerian drug market were fake. Now, recently, there was a survey that said about 70% of the drugs in the markets right now are fake. Even if NAFDAC in the last 24 hours has put out a statement to say that's not true, it should be something within the region of 4%. I mean, but even at that, it's still huge. Fake drugs, 11% as at 2011, and someone is saying 70% right now. NAFDAC is saying 4%, which means we still have it. So why is Nigeria a comfortable market for fake drugs? Let's start off from there.
Faking is a global trend.
Okay.
I would say it's only Nigeria. It's typically an opportunistic activity.
Okay.
Because of the economic gains that are associated with it.
Mm.
So it's a global trend. But I think I'm not, as a professional, I'm not comfortable with the 70% claim because it appears to be exaggerated. What it means is that for every 10 drugs you buy, 7 of them are not
original,
good quality. You know, so I don't think that is a true reflection of the current situation,
okay,
although we cannot run away from the fact that we still have a lot of fake medication within our environment.
Okay, let's look at the amount of energy put in by the former DG, the late Professor Dora Akunyili. Her time at NAFDAC, it was a really massive war against not just fake drugs or counterfeit drugs in itself, but against those that were pushing it into the market. And one should expect that from her time at NAFDAC till now, every other DG that's come into the regulatory system would have done more than she did to fight fake drugs. But it feels like after Dora, it just died down a little bit.
I think what our people may be talking about a reduction or using your word die down. It's because the kind of sensitization, the public sensitization aspect of NAFDAC activity, I agree with you, has really gone down. So probably that is why we are saying, the issue of the impact of the subsequent director generals or leadership of NAFDAC have not been very impactful. I do not want to totally agree with that. I think it's just that the publicity and the sensitization aspect, nobody's actually bringing the issue of fake drugs to the fore. Nobody's really educating people about the need to source your products better, I mean, from better outlets, So a lot of it has gone down, but that does not mean nothing has been done. You also know that there has been some attempt by NAFDAC to also use technology to guarantee the drugs you buy, such that when you buy a product, you send an SMS, you confirm originality of this. This happened after Dora's tenure. So I think NAFDAC is working. The issue is that are they working hard enough? That is a question that we need to answer.
Okay.
But the truth is that there is still a lot.
All right. So do you think NAFDAC is working hard enough to check the proliferation of counterfeit drugs?
Well, you see, like I said, the issue of counterfeit and faking is a whole cartel. You know, corruption builds it. Some of the people that are involved are in high places.
Okay.
And like I said, sometimes even getting following the judicial process or even prosecute them is also a problem, you know. So it's, I would say NAFDAC is doing what they can do, but we still need to still do more.
Okay, let's look at the Nigerian system, for example. I mean, there are a whole lot of gates when you import stuff. I mean, from the customs checks there. There's the Standard Organization of Nigeria, and then there's NAFDAC that has to do with certification of every drug that comes into the country, and all of these agencies put in place just to make sure there is hardly a substandard medicine in the market, and still we have all of these things coming in. So is it the fact that these persons are not doing the job, or you think the cartel is stronger than the system? Because you mentioned cartel.
Maybe what I need to do is to look at the whole process of drug production and how
because most of these drugs are not produced here.
And some of them are not produced here. Even the ones that are produced here, what we are actually doing in Nigeria, pharmaceutical production or manufacturing, is the last lap of it, which is like formulation and compounding.
Okay.
The actual production of chemical entities doesn't take place here.
Okay.
Because you need to buy the active ingredients before you now start formulating it into granules, before you make them into tablets and all that. There are processes you go through. Now, there are two levels, okay? When you talk of manufacturing, there's what we call good manufacturing practices. And it involves not only, it involves checking your even packaging material, not even the product inside, because the quality starts from the packaging. You have to check the quality of the packaging. You have to check and confirm your inputs. You have to check intermediates. You have to check the final product. And of course, along the line, capacity issues also come in, where we have small firms who have a wide range of products, and you need to move from one product to another. You need to have good cleaning procedure, such that you won't even have contamination of a product with the other one. That is manufacturing on its own. Now, on the other hand, too, you also have the distribution. So if we don't get manufacturing right, our products will be substandard, some of them will be fake.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand, too, what we miss at that point, there's also an opportunity for us to make sure that we have well-knitted distribution channels, such that fake products cannot easily enter. Once you create a channel of distribution and you have the necessary quality along the line, for example, you have a procedure for procuring into that channel, you can also, in a reasonable extent, eliminate faking and adulteration of products entering into circulation. Coming back to your specific questions, yes, these people are there, but they are not, there are so many multiple uncontrolled routes. Some people bring the products through their handbags, some bring in through different methods. So it's always very difficult to track, but the last mile gives us an opportunity, which I think would be, it's an area that all of us need to look at, the last mile of distribution to the retail outlets. So once we are able to get that done, issues like recall, for example, we don't have a system for, if you go to a retail pharmacy outlet today, we don't have a system whereby a manufacturer can account for every product at any time.
Across the country?
Yes, we don't have a system. But if we had a properly knitted distribution system, you would know every batch number and everywhere your product is, so that if there's a recall, you actually know where to go to, and within 24 hours, you can get all your products back, So the last mile is a very important area that we need to hold very well and develop.
I want to ask this question right now, even if it's going to be a little dicey. with what we have on ground, are we saying, or would it be right to say that NAFDAC is overwhelmed at this point?
I don't want to. I don't want to say that. I don't want to agree with that because I know NAFDAC is reasonably decentralized enough to handle these issues. Like I said, I remember when I was in the factory in Glaxo, the NAFDAC used to carry out unscheduled visits. You know, on routine, they are routine and they are unscheduled visit to manufacturing, you know, outfit. I think, to be fair to NAFDAC, I think reasonably, they have good control of products that are manufactured in this country. The regulation is, I don't think we have recognized pharmaceutical companies manufacturing fake drugs in Nigeria.
Okay, so the thing is, they come from outside.
They come from outside and they come from illegitimate other sources that may not be within their system.
Okay.
So if you are a registered manufacturer in Nigeria, I think NAFDAC has enough on ground to control that.
If you're a registered manufacturer, it means they are unregistered manufacturers in the country.
Of course, there are some people that, I'm sure sometimes you see it, sometimes this is go viral on your phone where you see somebody in a room. For example, water. Somebody that is just pouring water into empty plastic containers that were used before and gets those things into the market. You understand? So such things happen. So that is why I talked about the distribution. If we have a well-knitted distribution system, such a product can never go into the system.
Okay.
So it's a very key area that we have not taken seriously.
Basically, we need to try to get the system right. If we are going to ever, you know, destroy this chain of counterfeit drugs, that's, you know, or this cartel, you know, that brings in counterfeit drugs, we need to get the system right.
Once we get our drug distribution system right, there will be no incentive for you to manufacture fake products because you can never get it in the system.
Okay. All right, let's begin to look at the impact of counterfeit drugs. What are the impacts on the society?
There are numerous. Of course, deaths have happened, occurred, which is the end point. Usually, you have debilitating effect of drugs, sometimes leading to partial or permanent debilitation that the person is not useful to himself. We also have a serious one that affects anti-infectives. Well, by anti-infectives, I mean like antibiotics and antimicrobials, which is the development of resistance. You understand? So, because usually fake products do not usually contain enough active ingredients, and which is the major reason for development of resistance, which further complicates the process of treatment. You understand? And of course, there's also the economic burden of fake products. If you have a fake product in the system, you are ill today, you take a medication that's supposed to make you well to go to work tomorrow, but you can't. You can't go to work because you're not feeling well. So economic implications. So it's a very serious problem that we need to really tackle in the country.
Okay, definitely really huge when we talk about the impact of counterfeit drugs on the society. The scariest part is the end, that's death. And I mean, that was one of the reasons the late Professor Dora Akunyili actually fought counterfeit drugs, you know, with virtually everything she had, because she said she lost her sister to it, and it was really painful. All right, how can we, you know, really, practically, what can be done about this? And now I'm not talking about on the part of the government or, you know, looking at the system. As individuals, what can we do to discourage counterfeit drugs?
Usually, another major problem we have is that challenge we have is the economic position of every person, which is also an incentive for faking and counterfeiting. They are usually cheaper. So my advice to people is that, one, make sure you get your drugs from registered outlets for a start. And registered outlets are registered pharmacy outlets. And
Well, people have also complained of, you know, at some point buying a drug from a registered, well-known, you know, pharmacy, and in the end, the drug is not doing what it's supposed to do, or it's having an adverse effect, you know, or maybe it's not an original.
well,
So, is being registered, does it guarantee?
yes, to an extent, because if you have a registered outfit is run and manned by a professional pharmacist, and if a professional pharmacist would have taken out due diligence to make sure that even with the chaotic distribution channels we have, to make sure that they still put in their professional knowledge to be able to source products and know, try to use the professional knowledge to filter within the system where they are getting their drugs from. For example, a pharmacist is trained to understand and cite or suspect a product even than the ordinary person.
Okay.
So
it's possible to look at it and tell that.
Oh yes, I mean, for example, let me just give you an example of a product. We saw a label.
Okay.
The label was reading UK.
Okay.
Well, the label was not it's not a very fine label, but give or take, you'll be okay. But when we looked at the bottom of the can, we saw Lagos, Nigeria. So it's not possible for a manufacturer to come to Lagos to buy a container to package this product in London. So that, in the first place, gives you...
Raise the red flag.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Okay.
So sometimes you look at the labels, it's supposed to be an original brand, what I mean original manufacturer's brand. But you see the labels, the letters are not clear, you know. So, because the fakers, sometimes they are not very, they always leave their flanks open for us to also see. So, if you go to a registered pharmacist who has this training, you are sure that, even though, like I said, the distribution system is chaotic, he would have taken enough pains to try to filter. So, you're sure you get your products, good products from there. Then, ultimately, like I said, is to have this last mile drug distribution where needed. There's a federal government policy on that right now, and I think they are encouraging states to set up their mega distribution centers.
Okay.
Those are issues, those are steps that once they're implemented, I believe, to a reasonable extent. And of course, it will naturally kill the fakers.
Okay. So, back to my question. An individual, I'm not a pharmacist, I'm not trained, but I go to a pharmacy from time to time to get drugs. Can I look at a drug and be able to tell that this drug has something that makes it, or that I can see and say, okay, this just might not be original?
That is
as an individual, can I be able to do that?
That's what I'm telling you. You don't need to bother yourself as an individual in the first
if
place.
the system is right.
Now, I'm telling you
as we have it right now,
yes.
I mean, you can count by your fingertips how many pharmacies are registered.
Yes.
And then most of the time, these registered pharmacies, the price you have to pay for these drugs, you know, it's just not, you know, reachable for the, let's say, the low class in the society, even if I hate to use that word. And, you know, okay, I would go somewhere, I think they also sell these drugs, but can I look at it and be able to tell, okay, this is not an original, or there's something about this that just doesn't feel right?
Well, that is a very difficult thing, you understand?
For an individual.
For an individual, you know, to see. Even for a pharmacy, like I said, what we do is to raise a flag.
Okay.
We need to go and confirm that this is fake or this is not
Okay.
original. That's the problem with faking. You know, they try to imitate it to make it look as close as it is to the original. You understand? So that is why I still go back to the fact that, like I said, quality is not cheap. The problem, one of the things that the fakers capitalize on, the fact that, like you said, the economic situation. But we should know that. You see, the truth is that we are having this problem because we don't have a properly integrated healthcare system. We're running a system where you have to pay for every medication you get. But if we were even running a system where you go to the hospital, you are treated, we have insurance policy, and one way or the other you get payments. I mean, those things are paid for. one way or the other, we won't be having most of these problems. So, in the long run, as we get all these things in place, these issues will I think that those are issues that we need to take seriously. You see, the problem is that we sometimes look at problems in silos. You understand? But not knowing that these are all interlinked. If you have a proper healthcare system, a properly working health insurance system, some of these fake issues would have been handled. If we have proper distribution system, so I think while NAFDAC is doing everything they can to regulate properly manufacturers, of course NAFDAC also has the responsibility to regulate the distribution of drugs. They should now move towards also the kind of regulation they have been able to achieve in local manufacturer, with the local manufacturer, once we get it to the distribution outlets, where you close all those open markets. Those are areas where people just bring anything. There's an open market at the motor, this and that. These fake products going into these channels, and once they go in from there, you cannot really track them. So once those open markets are done away with, and you have the structured distribution network where policies and protocols are followed before you can get your product into these channels, you will be able to eliminate totally the issue of faking.
All right, just before I let you go, my very last question this morning. I'm sure there are professional bodies, as regards practicing as a pharmacist in Nigeria, and then I'm aware of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. Are they supposed to leave all of this responsibility of checking the proliferation of counterfeit drugs to just NAFDAC alone, or is there a role that all of these professional bodies can also play to support NAFDAC?
Yeah,
because it feels like everyone is just leaving the ball to NAFDAC. It's their duty, it's their job.
We also have the Pharmacists Council.
Okay.
That the society is just the association
for
of
professionals.
For professionals.
That's what I'm asking. As professionals, is there not anything that put heads together and let's see how we can tackle this thing, because it affects us also?
Oh yes, I think the professionals will support NAFDAC, particularly in areas of monitoring. The council.
Okay.
And sort of monitoring the practice within our environment. Sometimes, like I said, we've had situations where practicing pharmacists within a locality, a local government, for example, come together to set up a distribution channel where at least 70 or 80% of what they get within their retail practices, they get it from those channels. So there are initiatives like that to support the council and to reinforce the practice in this area. But by and large, everybody cannot go to the border. Everybody cannot go to the ports. Everybody cannot enter the factories to enforce good manufacturing practice. The body that has been assigned that responsibility is NAFDAC. Yes.
All right. We're just hoping that finally we're able to get a working system, where channels of distribution and then manufacturers and everybody, is properly checked, just so we don't have this. I think 4% is still high for counterfeit drugs across the country, and there's a whole lot that still needs to be done as regards regulation, as regards enforcement, as regards public awareness. Also, very important, and then also those that have been found to be, aiding and bringing in all of these things, they should be brought to book. If somebody is made to face the full wrath of the law for bringing in counterfeit drugs, I'm sure some other persons, would learn. It will serve as a deterrent to other persons, so we don't have all of this. Because, you just can't count the number of persons that die from fake malaria drugs virtually every day, and some other drugs. At some point we heard of, very fake teething powder for babies, and that, that was pretty scary at the time. So there's just a whole lot that needs to be done. We'll keep talking about it until it gets better. Thank you very much Tom, for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you for having
appreciate.
me. Thank you.
All right, TMI continues shortly. We'll also get to look at some really interesting national issues this morning on the program. Do stay tuned.